I'd like to lead off by asking, when did you first start running in track?
We used to, in my community, we used to have, you know, on every community, every block, there was a fast guy. You know, so what we'd do, we'd you know, when the weather got good, we'd get out in the middle of the street, all the guys in the community, and we'd race. You know, and we'd race, and you know, so there was a fast guy in every community. And so what happened, the word would get out that this guy in this community was fast, so some other guy from some other community would come over to challenge you, you know. And it was kind of a neat thing because you hear, well, oh yeah, man, you're tough, but you got this other guy's name is Bill Flowers, he'll come over and kick your butt. And I said, well, bring him on, you know, bring him on over. Let's see if he can run, or, you know, if you're just selling whoop tickets. And so, you know, that's kind of the way we did it. My junior year was the first year I went out for track. But I ran really well. I finished 4th in the city in the 100-yard dash, and I finished 3rd in the 200 in the 220. And you know, after just 1 year of training, and so because I was pretty fast, but I just needed to get in shape and understand the sport. So I started when I was a junior in high school, and in my senior year, nobody could touch me. I broke every record there was, and did a lot of things like that. And I finished 3rd nationally and the best in the country, you know, and at the Golden West Championship. So it was kind of a neat opportunity. I won a scholarship to UCLA and Oregon, and so eventually, you know, landed here in Oregon and ran pretty well. You know, did a lot of good stuff.
What were your times?
Well, I ran in the 100-yard dash. I ran in high school. I ran 9.5 and 21.3, and in college I ran 20.8. That was my best, and 10.22 electronic. And the 100-meter, you know, they switched from meters, you know, they switched from yards to meters, and which basically kind of a good thing. But for a long time we ran yards, you know, and that was kind of a new deal for me. But I was come through in a period of transition where we were running yards, and so I still have the state record here in Oregon for 220-yard dash, only because they stopped running it. You see. If they hadn't transitioned to meters, then somebody would have broken it a long time ago. But because, you know, you can't break a record that no longer, you know, the distance that they no longer run. So that was kind of neat. So I started my junior year and ran beginning then.
As far as track and just your years at college, did you have any kind of relationship with Coach Bill Bowerman, Steve Prefontaine, or Frank Shorter, or any of these?
I did. You know, matter of fact, I'll talk about Pre first, and then I want to talk a little bit about Bill Bowerman. Pre was when Pre came here, I was a senior in school, and so Pre was always, you know, he was a good runner from the start. Kind of cocky, you know, really kind of, you know, he knew he was good, and he was almost arrogant, you know, kind of got on my nerve a little bit at first, you know, because he couldn't, you know, he was sort of, when we first met, you know, he kind of talked to you, but he really wasn't, you know, you didn't feel like you had his full attention, you know, it was sort of like he'd be talking to you, but he was really somewhere else. And one thing about Pre is that, you know, there was really kind of a soft side to him that I really, once he let you in and became close to him and he started talking to you and, you know, really seeing who you really were, he let you in, then he looked at you, you know, he made you feel like, you know, like you had some value. You know, he and I, you know, we got along pretty good. One thing that he did that really, really impressed me was that when they started paying athletes to show up in Europe and different places around the country. They give athletes $5,000 or $7,000 to show up to run at these big meets. But what they did was they paid white athletes more money than they gave Afro-Americans, because Afro-Americans, you know, they said that, well, you know, the distance run, mostly distance runners. They said, well, you guys, you know, distance runners, you guys have to train really hard, and these black athletes, they run fast, and it's just natural, it's just inherent, they just run fast, so we don't have to give them as much. And so Pre said, what? You know, he didn't like that, see. Not a lot of Afro-American athletes liked him because of his arrogance, but when he stood up for them and said, hey, you know, none of the distance runners are going to run until you pay everybody the same amount of money. And so what he did, he formed this union, this sort of this foundation, and said, we won't go until there's equity and fairness in the business. You give them what you give us, or hey, this whole business is shut down. And so they didn't want to shut the business down, so they started paying Afro-American athletes the same amount of money. So this was a headline, it was in the newspaper. And so the Afro-Americans saw it and said, hey, whoa, I don't like this guy, but damn, he stood up for us. You see, then they started kissing his butt because he had done something which put more money in their pockets. So even though Free was a little bit, prima donnish, he still had an integrity about him that let people know that, hey man, we all runners. We all runners. We get out there, we train in the rain, we lift weights, we do this, we do that. You're going to pay those guys. And so everybody started to, really appreciate him. That's when he got really, really popular with everybody. You see, because they saw a side of him. Anytime you're going to sacrifice your salary to make sure everybody else get what they're supposed to get, that's a big thing to people, especially Afro-Americans. I was in the meet the night that Pre passed away. They always let him run last, because everybody would come to the meet. They came to watch the whole meet, but they would make Pre's race the last one because they knew everybody would stay. So they say, well, you pay a certain amount of money to come in. So Pre's race was always the highlight of the big deal. So people go, whoa, and so they say, okay, now we're ready for the 2 mile or the 5,000 or whatever. And everybody was glued to their seat because they were always waiting for him to break a record or do a PR. And so that night I ran the 100 meter, finished second or third, and I don't remember, second. And it was kind of a neat thing because it was kind of a rainy, kind of a messed up day. It had been raining all day, and it was windy. And I don't know, I thought they were going to cancel the meet, to be honest with you, but they don't cancel meets around here. It could be snowing, and you still got to run in the snow as long as you can see your lane. So after the race was over, he ran a PR, ran a record, record time. And he went over to a place called the Paddock, which is a bar that still exists. It's still over there on Hilliard, about 35th and Hilliard. And he tanked up on booze, not hard liquor, but beer. He just drank. He was actually a bartender over there. But this particular night after he won, he was just, just drinking, having fun, celebrating the fact that he had run well. And everybody was appreciating the fact that they had a celebrity living here in Eugene. So he had a little MG, a little car, and it was a convertible. So on his way home, apparently what happened was he hit a slick spot, and they said he was going up this hill. He had lived up in the top of Hendricks, and hit one of the deals, and it shot his car up into the side of a wall and flipped it, and it landed on top of him to a point in a way that he couldn't get. He couldn't get out from underneath it. He couldn't lift it off himself. And there was another guy who came up who was trying to help him, but he couldn't get the car off of Pre. So he left. He had to leave to go try to get help. But in the meantime, Pre's face was pressed into a little puddle. And he actually, in addition to being, kind of crushed to some degree, he actually drowned, because he could, he didn't have enough strength for, to hold his head up that long. So that's kind of how things kind of went down there. That was kind of a tough one, for everybody, because in spite of the fact that, he had some, he had his little, he was just a guy, he was just a young dude. He only lived to be 24 years old. So, everybody changes over time, but I was devastated I was devastated. It took me a long time to get past it. A lot of other people. I mean, naturally, the track world was devastated. It was almost like one of the most nightmarish things that had ever happened. But he was a man just like the rest of us, and it was unfortunate that he happened to be a celebrity and so well loved and everything. But that's sort of the way that went down. Bill and I didn't get along very well. He was kind of disrespectful too. He would say things, that were totally inappropriate to me, and I didn't, I respected him, but I didn't like him. I mean, I really wanted to hit him in the head with a brick or something if I could get done and get away with it. But, he was the boss. He was the one who signed the check. He was the one that, that decided what you did and how you did it and, so forth. So you had to play the game. So he and I had some arguments all the time. But as the years went by, I had a lot of success on the track, but I only had a year and a half of success. I ran really well one year. I actually made the Hall of Fame. They gave me a big plaque just recently, a couple of years ago. We won the national championship in '64 and '65. I scored a few points there. I did well in a lot of individual meets where we were behind in relays or in the mile relay. He'd put me on the mile relay, and I would anchor the thing or run third, and I would catch the guy or whatever. So we did a lot of stuff like that. So they called me. I had a little nickname. They called me Blazer, and because I ran well from behind. It seemed like if I was in front, I didn't run as well. But if I was behind everybody, I seemed to relax and just go after people and run them down. And so that was kind of a big deal to people. But after college and all that stuff, and my relationship with Bill, which was relatively shaky, I met him again later in my life, and just before about 4 years before he died, and I worked for him. I sort of as a ranch hand in addition to going to school, and we became really close. He was an old man at this time. He was in his 80s. And we would talk every day. I mean, we'd get done with our work. We'd build fences, we'd bale hay, feed the cows, set up sprinkler systems, do all sorts of stuff like that, just he and I. And I worked with him up until his death. And we got to be really close. Every time his wife would leave to go over to Eastern Oregon where he passed away, she would go over there to see her grandchildren. She would leave. She would want me to come up and stay with him. So I'd go up and stay with him. I'd do all the cooking and everything like that. We'd sit out in the backyard and drink. He made homemade beer and wine, and so we'd sit back there and get plastered in the middle of the afternoon, and then sleep 3 hours, and get up and watch TV and just hang out and stuff like that. So we got to be real close. I'd take him out for chicken. He loved chicken. He was a big-time chicken eater. So I said, Bill, let's go eat some chicken. Why would you want to take me to eat chicken? I said, because I know you like chicken. Let's go. I said, I'd even buy you some wings, because he loved wings. So we'd go, and that's all he'd order was wings. So, every time we'd just go eat wings, and we'd come back. But Bill, he had a lot of humility about him. We had some good conversations.
How was track in the 60s and 70s different from track now?
More people, what happened was track seemed to be more exciting back then. I mean, more people attended the dual meets than they do now. I mean, we'd have a packed house for dual meets because it was like Bowerman was here. Bowerman had a magnetic personality, but in answer to your question, very simply, you have to have something to do. You got to have something that you're passionate about, and track is my passion. I love it. I live for track. You hear what I'm saying? To me, there's nothing better than having athletes running for something. You got to go home and be excited about something, getting up the next day and going to work out or going to meet a group of guys for a beer, even though you're training and stuff. A little beer, like I'm not encouraging you guys to drink, but I'm just saying when you get to an age where, even if you're training at 21, 20, a beer or two, and as long as you don't try to go in there and drink up the club, everything is fine. I'm talking to the kids about after 21, got it? Just for anybody who watches the tape, I don't think I'm encouraging it. But I'm just saying, track and field is a good thing. And you can always do it. Even as an old guy, you can always do it. Get up and challenge yourself to do PRs, do all the things that are involved. And you have a healthier body, you're going to look better. See, I'm almost 67 years old. And people say, and my girlfriend is 47, And so I've been kicking it with her for I don't know how long. People say, oh man, you don't act like, 67-year-old man. That's because I take care of myself. I know good and well, my body doesn't look, I can go places I can turn my back on people. If they see me from behind, they come, hey man, and then turn around and they see the face, they know I'm older, They don't know how much older. But you see, it's a good thing because every place you go, the one thing that you take with you is your body. You can't leave your body at home and go somewhere just the way it is. So you want to make sure that you don't misrepresent yourself by going in and looking bad, looking like a slob or a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a good way to take care of yourself. Always take care of yourself. Make that a part of your lifestyle. Make that a part of your lifestyle. Always do something. I don't care what else goes on in your life. Always exercise.